Okay. Hello, everyone. I had some time and I thought I'd crank out an episode. Something very interesting happened. Or I could say something non-interesting happened which suddenly was seen in an interesting way. I was on my balcony. I was looking at the cars passing by in the streets. And then I thought about this idea of a vehicle. And I saw it having parallels to the idea of personality. Of course, the notion of the personality, as Carl Jung talked about it, he talked about it as the persona, one of the major archetypes. And what the persona is it is a mask. So in this episode, I'm trying to wonder about what is beyond or behind the mask of personality. And anyways, in my just looking at the streets and seeing the cars go by, I wrote down the statement, personalities are vehicles for existence. And then I thought about the unknown presence of every personality, that we are living in a world right now where every day you can say consciousness logs into the waking state physical existence, and how this physical existence moves and responds to the environment animates what we call personality. And it's very interesting because if a person wonders about, for example, could extraterrestrials have personalities, we see that it is the notion of a person. Here's the incredible thing. The idea of man is man-made. There's something very interesting about how we're all being people right now, that beyond cultural, social, and individual dimensions, it is as if there are many ways to look at the world, and we are at one corner of this giant room. And I wrote a guiding quote for this episode. Pretty much you can say in my inner realms, it was as if the Logos is like, all right, man, talk about this today. And the thing I've written down here is an advanced civilization marches fearlessly into the unknown. To continue. In order to be able to communicate something, there needs to be a founding image. And I would say for this episode, the founding image is that how can this understanding, let's say a founding view, rather than just an image. And the founding view for this episode is us as human beings trying to comprehend not only the value of personhood, but that if there's a chance there's something more than the personality, how can a species framed through personality and personhood utilize this? I divide life. And to be honest, that is really part of being a person, that if you look at it physically, there was such a level of evolution. We can say evolution is just what planets do, in the face of light, facing light. But I would say that it's as if like the planet was happening, and then a part of the planet separated from the whole planet. I feel the emergence of limbs and creaturehood is one of the most bizarre universal mysteries. Not in regards to physically how it came about, in regards to evolution and how our eyes, evolved when we were under the water before the land was being walked on. There was an initial separation of the totality of existence with a part of itself, and this is where we can say the unconscious evolution, the unconscious evolution from the unconscious world. So the first duality of self and world, physical self, physical body and world. Now we have, after a very long time, cultivated an additional dimension of intelligent activity on this planet. There is something that human beings are doing that other species are not. And someone explained it to this scholar, I don't remember the guy's name, but the idea was that what separates human beings and with many other animals and lesser species, lesser evolved species, the distinction is simply this, that human beings are conscious of their mortality. You look at animals in nature, and it's not that they don't have stress. Their stress is really environmental and situational. It's as if a deer is grazing in the forest and suddenly like a roar of a tiger is heard, or a panther or something, right? So in the moment where the growl, let's say the growl of a panther is heard by the deer just grazing in the forest, it's like in that moment, the deer has stress, has opposing forces to its life force. And let's say the deer manages to get away from the situation and that moment passes. Then the stress of the moment, the opposing forces against one's life force, it's as if they're not there. And so the deer forgets about that situation. But the human being is conscious that, we are under attack. But we're not under attack by creatures. We're under attack by existential circumstance. This is why, for me, Civilization 2.0 is like our species' this march towards an advanced civilization. It's our species' greatest counterattack against the void. The existential situation of human life is so strange and bizarre, and so little thought has been put into it. It's as if, honestly, when I found my inner eyes, I got shocked how so many dimensions of human life narrowed down to a certain framework of reality. They say this idea that there were so many methods, different methods, what was it, like 12, 13 methods of flight, but when the airplane was made and the moment it was successful, all the other methods were forgotten, right? So I find the same thing has happened to the human species, where a certain approach to what we are, which was successful for a certain time in history, began becoming solidified so that every generation has to acknowledge how the past walked. You see, it's like there's one view that human beings are born and they carry on the greatness from the past into the future, and they update it, they extend it. And then there is a view that there is a greatness which is just from the generation one was in, right? It's as if it's the greatness of that wave, as if human beings entering the planet, it's like the planet's giving off waves, okay? And these waves, it's as if each wave of the ocean has a value to the surfer. What I'm trying to get to is that if the personality is a vehicle, can be seen through the vehicle archetype. And if we realize civilization is the sum total accumulation of all the expressions of personalities on this earth, the advanced civilization and what we call humanity, let me just say this, that what we call humanity is a vehicle. It is a vehicle where there is 8 billion pilots and passengers at the same time. 8 billion plus. That means every human being is a passenger of existence, but they are a pilot of experience. They are the pilot of their experiences on this realm. People feel that life is very complicated, but it can be narrowed down to dimensions, and then these dimensions can be narrowed down, and eventually, the presence of nature was divine before it could not be. It's like another way of finding perfection is to assume it from the beginning. That means whatever mistake you've made in your life, it's as if whatever. It's like the world was, the intent of experience is its own perfection. When you look at the modern human being's attention is occupied with communication. This is an important sector. Another dimension of the human being, one can say that it's occupied by its possessions, by what it has. It's as if when we wonder about what makes a person, right, it's like there's an expression angle, there's a reception angle, and there's a maintenance angle. Communication is how a human being expresses. So I find that this is pretty much it, that if a person wants a healthy mind, communication is important, but exploration is the greater form of communication, right? There are some people who, how would I say it, the way I treat my own podcast is that I feel I am one member of a species that through rare circumstances has a capability to control itself individually. So many people, they have let's say a fantasy or a fantastic love for the notion of oneness, but people don't realize how deep and how heavy the notion of oneness is. It's the New Age community so gently is like, yay, it's like it's all one. But I'll tell you, it's as if it's all one and it's like that's not the end of the sentence. You see, oneness, this might be one of the strangest things a human being can say, a philosopher can say, but it's that oneness is 1/4 of reality. You see, for the body to see it as a vehicle is easy. People are like, yeah, sure, I'm this mind consciousness that is, has access to memory, imagination, and pretty much like a psyche, a psychology. And so the psychology behind the eyes of the person is in some sense piloting the vehicle or the plane of existence in front of its eyes, right? So it's as if when we have a mind, it's as if there are minds and bodies that are moving bodies. That is the attitude we have currently in 2022. And what's even more hilarious is that so many people, they're like, of course, man, I'm a person of great mind, not realizing we don't know. We don't know what the mind is. We're living in that phase of history. Maybe in 1,000 years it'll be clarified, but for now, the mystery of consciousness, my greatest clue towards it is that it's a giant landscape. It's like we found another world at the edge of one world, but that other world was within. So for the mind, it's like strangely existence is a vehicle. And I have to say mind, think of it, it's all about maturity of contemplation. What that means is that it's like at first the person is, let's say they're scared of the complex, so they want a simple they want a simple life. But when you suddenly realize that there is an unknown potential to every energetic moment ever. I don't know how to say this, but I feel I have found a treasure, some sort of diamond in the dirt. And this diamond that I have found is that in front of our eyes, there is the range of our free will is to notice the whole moment, but also to navigate the body. Like, people cannot control other people's bodies. It's as if the minds are not even designed for that, by the way. This is why the power archetype has an inevitable misery, usually at its end. Guys, someone in the chat section says, but does the tiger stress over the deer? Yeah, in the earlier metaphor, I would say the tiger doesn't stress for the deer. Or here, I'll tell you something bizarre I recently saw. I saw this nature video on YouTube. And in this nature video, guys, it was kind of disturbing to watch, actually. But what it was this guy who was on the street in some country. I don't know if it was the Philippines, Malaysia, or India, or where it was. But there was a deer, and there was this snake that had coiled itself around this deer. Okay? And suddenly you see, like, there's a cameraman filming this moment, and there's another guy on the other side of the street, to be safe from the snake, with a giant branch, is hitting the snake so it goes off the deer. And eventually the guy hits the snake enough times that the snake just gives up and leaves, right? And the deer survives and runs away, That's kind of like aliens helping human beings would be a similar sort of parallel. But in that scene, I thought about, okay, what is the snake gonna do? And the thing about nature is that its programming is very simple. Nature is incredibly chronological and just a reaction to the present. That means animals have an ability to be present in ways that for the human being is clouded by a subjective life. So to walk back towards the topic and the unknown presence, you see, if I say that my personality is sourced or based out of my language, then what I say and how I say dictates a sort of meaning, you know, a sort of personality. But imagine you're listening to someone who, to them, the mystery of how the moment is alive is as unknown as it is to you. You see, we were lied to by a linguistic simulation. That means, or let me say it in a different way, rather than we were lied to or human consciousness was deceived out of its natural birthright of pure multidimensional access to its higher potential. It's as if when you realize how underdeveloped our species is compared to the advanced potential it has, it's as if all views on evil are just evil turns into like another word for evil. Like the words unnecessary and inefficient will replace evil, will replace cruelty. Humorously, there's been times where I have a twin brother and I've told him that sometimes I feel I was born 400 years too soon. The viewer, the inner viewer, I mean. You know, it's as if it's like imagine like history as a video game and I logged into it earlier than expected. With that, there comes the nostalgia for a familiar future, but at the same time, a recognition that 2022 is the year where human beings had dwelled enough in the outer reality. They had dwelled enough in fixed subjective landscapes and had come to a point where they realized that the purpose of the evolution of the creature is to communicate itself beyond the atmosphere. The more macro you look at life, right, you add a macro significance rather than a micro significance, it changes your energy levels. I am telling you, you could be a person right now sitting on a park bench and being like, oh man, I'm just a, not simple human being alive, right? Not realizing that it's like there could also be this view that we have a limited time to see what the most advanced state of being is. When I say advanced, it means all dimensions that we have been exposed to are preserved. You see, this is the challenge of designing an advanced civilization, is that the architect at some point goes, the designer at some point goes like, okay, what do I do with chaos? You see, it's as if humanity is a balance between chaos and order. It's like the yin-yang symbol. But to wonder about an advanced civilization beyond duality, it means we first shift the current duality to see what other views there are. That means imagine there's a box on our head, but it's on the head of the species. Okay? And this box is made of language. And if the language successfully makes you give up on trying to understand the realm, it's as if the film on the movie screen became your identity. To be able to even appreciate that you are an unknown presence, what greater metaphysics or spirituality can the person want? That means think beyond the angels, think beyond the galactics, think beyond universalism. And you'll realize you are an unknown self in an unknown world. And that is something we fear, because we think that all knowledge is projected out of the body, and when the body goes away, the projector of knowledge is no longer overlaid on the outer. But when it's as if thinking of it this way, that what is the purpose of an unknown self in an unknown world? What is the purpose of that unknown self? And to acknowledge your unknown presence is to switch the game of reality. I am telling you, when you shift the macro context, the micro concepts become illuminated. They become suddenly multidimensional, right? You know what talking about an advanced civilization feels like? It feels like paradise has been found behind one's eyes, but it has not been actualized in front of it. It's as if we have found paradise behind our eyes, but now all that is left is to build it on earth. This is why compassion is a sign of true intelligence. Do you know, imagine in the future, let's say this resume system kind of shifts in a different modality, and it becomes a sort of situation where it's as if the qualities it's as if everybody wants to live in a world they can trust. So the more human beings that begin trusting reality, it's as if they connect a very unique, you know what it is? It's as if you see birds flying all over the place, and then you look at the sky and you see the birds flying, in an orchestrated, organized way. It's as if, did I just see the letter V in the sky? In caps. The body may assume the attention, the inner unknown attention that identifies with the body may assume that its existence is a failing system. What I mean by that is that immortality seems to be restricted to energy. The causal position of energy. But when you look at how we are technically being energy, like nameless energy right now, how bizarre is that? It's like the person's like, okay, tell me about yourself. It's like, I'm just energy, existential energy. How about you? There are forces that are poetically moving change, poetically and philosophically. pulled the strings of our memory. We pulled the strings of our visualization. We pulled the strings of present conditioning. And eventually we realized the meaning of life gravitates towards a conscious self. And that conscious self, its most ultimate realization or enlightenment is to recognize that it is the whole moment. That means imagine there were 8 billion soldiers that had just, fallen from the sky into a battlefield. And it's as if on that battlefield, one person's I don't know how to say it, but once overwhelmment makes a step, or let's say in the psychology of the person, they suddenly see something intense. It's like the acceptance of it frees one of the inner dismissal of it. I don't know how to say this, but it's like an invisible, unknown field of energy or intelligence is remembering itself. It's like an invisible field is remembering it's invisible through the visible. That is the current era. A multidimensional organism finds itself. The personality is being held. This is a key point to make. Our awareness and consciousness is the spotlight, where the expressed personality dances on an existential stage. I remember hearing this speaker on YouTube by the name of this great scientist called Neil deGrasse Tyson. And in one of his inspiring videos, really inspiring videos, he was saying it's like the reason the universe is fascinating is because we are made of it. And he says something in the likes of you are or we are the universe. And if the idea that we are the universe, the implication of a recognition that your intelligence is way beyond the boundary of your body because it is holding the moment's edge beyond the body. That means it's as if we are existing in an unknown place, but we are knowing how we are existing in an unknown place in every moment on this rock spinning in the middle of nowhere. The weirdest thing. The type of life we have been, it's as if, to be honest, nobody ever will know what they are in this universe. No individual creature will fully know if it identifies as its individualism. If it identifies beyond its individualism as a knower, It's no longer the knowledge, it is the knower of knowledge. If you identify as the knower, which is your presence, the knower of knowledge is an instant. The more honest you are, the more accurately your sensory perception is being translated by, let's say, the working mind. For me, a way to talk about my inner experiences that I felt went beyond my personality was usually I was watching. It's like just like a dream where you wake up in the dream. In the dream, you know that you're sleeping in your, you know it's a dream, but you even react still in the dream self. But it's as if the person wakes up and there wasn't a big deal from it. It's as if our brains and the dream state has been foreshadowing or in a hidden way telling us what's going to happen after death. Think about it. That sleep is kind of like a mini absence from existence. When you're absent, then you suddenly wake up in the dream state, then you find consciousness in the dream state, and then you suddenly wake up in your actual existence. Just think about how advanced the brain is, that when the person sleeps, it still lives. It lives a unbound life based on what is received during the dream. You see people sometimes say, what is the meaning of my dream? It's like, I remember even seeing this website online where it's like, okay, what does your dream mean? And I was like, that was interesting at some point, but then for me, I was like, wait a minute. It's not the images or the symbols of the dream that are significant. It is how your consciousness as an individual is receiving an experience in the dream state. So this is what I'm talking about, is like being conscious in your dreams. And the moment you wake up, it's as if you logged out of that dream server and you logged back in to the waking state, to the physical existence. To me, I feel that if this human soul was, let's say, somehow considered possible to see, it's as if somebody could see a human soul, I'd say that it would be as if the greatest clue to where the soul can be seen is in deep sleep. Deep sleep is when it's as if the hidden soul has logged off the computer. And is experiencing no server. It's as if the brain through sleep goes through a phase of like, all right, I experienced existence, now I'm going to experience non-existence. And we feel that in deep sleep there is not consciousness, but I'll tell you, there is consciousness, but not the consciousness of the human. It's as if, I will tell you, your unknown eyes are being the world, the whole world. You know, it's as if somebody would be like, Mr.Within, what would that mean to a monotheist? You know, and I'll say it means that just like how it's inconceivable for us to see who is looking through our eyes, it's as if we are what God is looking at, and our source is the inconceivable. So it's as if, let's say there were your regular biological eyes, there was the metaphysical third eye, and then there is, in some sense, the universal eyes. Reality is so fascinating, and it is so delicately, I shouldn't say delicately, but it's like it has been solidified in an incredible way, where the moment I realized, like, you know, it's like there is How would I tell you? It's like just the effort of a civilization is the most advanced thing that happened on the earth. Now to wonder about the most advanced, it's like there's a unknown fascination there. And I feel anybody who discovers and realizes really that the unknown is unconditional, it is not connected to any shape. You see, what is aware of shape is not a shape, but the moment it moves, the shape is seen. In our most effortless state, we are unknown. In our most, let's say, maxed out effort state, we are trying to hold knowledge so it doesn't shatter through time's revelation. I am telling you, this world is a strange event. Our personalities emerge through this strange event. In one talk, I called it the grand happening. Upon the moment you reach your unknown presence as a human being, that is where there comes a full authorization for the mind's expression. It's strange. It's as if people don't realize the greatest writers were born staring at the empty page. They stared at emptiness and wondered what is and what can be. You know? A conscious, biological, let's say temporary entity has noticed it is simulating subjective reality in every moment where there is the animation of life force. It's as if free will is like the command for energy to translate. It's like, you know what it is? It was object to object, then minds emerged, and it became object to subject to object to subject. We are the cycle of karma is the storytelling the mind has accepted. The unknown is liberation. You know, so because if we say, if the Buddha said the outer realms are suffering, the world is suffering, and suffering attached to existence is a persona. The story of suffering. It's as if non-existence is the ultimate detachment, but then it doesn't make sense why existence was there. You see, it's as if suffering is there, but suffering's being generated from the mind, so it was like the Buddha realized everybody's simulating illusion and then believing the illusion rather than the truth. You know, and then when he stepped out of the linguistic simulation, the boundaries of dualistic selfhood, then it's like there's nothing left to do. That's the thing about the unknown. The more unknown something is, the more we're just staring at it. It's like they asked the person, you know, how's your eyesight? And the person said, do you see that, glowing light standing on the moon? It's like the person's eyesight was so great, they were seeing what was happening in the Andromeda Galaxy. Right? Pretty much it's the administration of an unknown force. We have to navigate and pilot our attention in this realm first to its most honest state, so it has access to simple, let's say, pure data. Simplicity is a path to purity. So anybody on this planet who feels, they have misstepped, it's as if you take a step back to simplify. Really, everything is, think of it this way, that there's stimulus and there's endless reaction of sensory perception. So when there's this endless reaction, it's as if it seems the way nature functioned was like instant chaos, instant order, instant chaos. Like it's as if when the eyes closed, the whole body freaked out. When the eyes opened, the body was calm. Now imagine this through a gradual evolution. Put it into the evolution machine, and you see what comes out. It's parallel selfhood. That's what's going on Earth. Parallel lives are being accessed. And the personality is a choice of which parallel life or probability of the mind actualizes. We must appreciate how unknown the world is. It's the best strategy. To fear it is like, why bother? It's like people don't need to go to an art gallery. They're accessing in HD the greatest artwork ever. That's the... It's like one can even, right now I'm realizing the concept of soul could just be attributed to motion. What I mean by that is like the spirit is dynamism. The body is static interpretation. Attention moves in many different ways. We are, as a species, maturing beyond a linguistic world story into a recognition of an incredibly experiential and experientially multidimensional system. An advanced civilization caters not to just objects and subjects, but all their variations. The future must not only be welcomed, but it must be welcoming. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's say somebody experienced the past paradise, and then they stopped caring for future paradises. An unknown inner witness stands as a spherically edgeless, endless awareness. It's so fascinating that as I'm giving this talk, it's like I am not a body. The body is animating in accordance to how the inner realms keeps itself. The world has changed. And the way that it is changing is that the appreciation for the position of the human being is being, the macro context of it is being replaced with advancement. I would like to see in the future, this is something I've spoken about in other talks, where there's going to be this great library called the Great Library of Names. And under each person's name is either a cyber portfolio or a written physical book portfolio of, what do you call it? It's as if underneath every person's name, all their written content, everything they contributed is there. Do you know? It's as if we make an archive of human history. And an advanced civilization would provide this instantly for people. Because what is happening is not that it's like when I remember I was on a regular basis in Dundas Square, during my breaks, smoking a cigarette in Toronto, Canada, and it was such a strange place where, in the sense that I was watching human psychology entangling. And then I realized something, that we are so convinced by our singular materialistic perspective that we have not realized the value of human life is not that you were just biologically alive. It was the potential you actualized while you were biologically alive. So what it is that the minds of every living creature deserves a voice. If in the future, if in the future they created this technology where a dolphin, like a dolphin's brain waves could be translated into exact English language, words and sentences, right? Imagine there was this advanced technology in the future. If I was alive then, I would go and interview that dolphin. I would start another podcast just to go interview that dolphin, because every conscious moment of existence holds a clue of how it's happening. If we look at human beings not in a culturally discriminatory way, not in a nationalistically discriminatory way, but just in the view that everybody is a creature on this rock, and there are hidden dimensions which, if pulled out, at least create the momentum for an advanced civilization to emerge. There has to occur something where we realize we're temporary beings, and in regards to our inner work, I think sometimes I think about the destiny of technology, and I'm like, the reason robots are going to get all the jobs is because man's true destination is to live as a mental being. It's as if when you go back in evolution, the percentage of being an objective being of being a body was way more. When you come more into the future, you see the addition of the mind, right? And then in the very far future, right, it's going to become pure mind. It's like, as the poet Rumi from 700 years ago, the Sufi mystic says it. He says, so this is in his poetry, Jalaluddin Maulana Rumi. He says, I died as a mineral, and I became a plant. I died as a plant, and I rose to animal. I died as an animal, and I was man. Why should I fear death? When was I less by dying? I shall die once more, to soar with angels blessed. But even from angelhood I must pass on to that. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the last line. To that which no mind can conceive, something in those lines. So pretty much in his poetry, this mystic from 700 years ago, he's saying there is an evolution of attention as soul beyond the format of its finding, conscious finding. There's an evolution. It's as if you think about it, the body, its evolution is immortal technology. If you think about the evolution of the mind is endless, infinite expressionism. If you think about the evolution of the soul, it is to surpass worldhood. As if a sort of been there, done that for a collective being, an omniscient being. But it's like the world's changing. Imagine there was the world changed, there was an apocalypse, and then God shouted, "Hey, I was reading that." A voice is heard in the clouds, God was reading a book and that was conscious existence. Somebody took the book, oh no, apocalypse. Okay. Due to the recognition that everything's unknown, in the chat section somebody says quote tunnel or poetry reading. Those are two options. I'll let the audience decide. If the audience wants a quote tunnel, I could use a conceptual breather too. Here, I'll read a poem. I'll see what sort of gift my past eyes left for this moment. There's a poetry book I wrote in 2016 called Endless Roads. That's the title. I'll read the first poem and then I'll open it up for viewers to choose a number. The first poem of this poetry book called Endless Roads. And I'm behind schedule in setting up the bookstore, guys, but I'm working on it. The first poem is called Your Divine Remembrance. And people can open another tab on their browser, and you can look up this song called Monk by the Sea Nocturne, 1 hour. I'm listening to that as I'm reading this. And just set the volume on 50% on the other tab if you're using a computer. Anyways. Your divine remembrance. Who seeks the truth? When the truth seeker has become emptiness on a rock in emptiness, we all want doors that revolve around us. Why are the broken trying to fix up all that they see? Life has brought us to our end so we can comprehend our beginning. Sometimes words write themselves into worlds more transcendent than names. Have you realized you are your divine remembrance? Have you realized you are your divine remembrance? Okay, somebody in the chat section says number 11. Okay, number 11, the poem from Endless Roads is, Who chose you? A tree must not doubt the seed of its fruitful progress. Divinity dances because assumptions roam freely on the tongue of man. Many years have passed, but what has changed? I thought I was smart, but then I realized it was all the wit of God. Oh wait, how about the will of God? Could two eyes see the same, just to transcend the blame they cannot tolerate? Acceptance is the key to all doors. Who chose you before all choices? And that's number 11, guys. You know, I'm trying to put life into this unknown cyberspace community. For the mind, it feels like an advanced civilization is just, you know, a small part of the road, but for the body, it's like the major deal. Everything goes about, like anything I talk about in the outer realms, it just eventually goes towards the advanced civilization. It's the greatest idea on the planet. And, you know, I feel strangely blessed to be able to even notice it, to talk about it. I'm going to read the last poem of this poetry book called Endless Roads. Okay, there's a request came in before. Okay, I'll read that. Number 23. Let's see. I should have probably said earlier there's 26 poems in this. 23 is titled A Tourist That Didn't Like Traveling. As the airplane landed and the sleeping child opened his or her eyes, how could reality be here? Could the plane of existence be set beyond location? A tourist in an unknown land is on vacation not to be too caught in plans. How does the journeyer solo it out in the road that destiny has paved? This part is, I don't know what to say about it, but I wrote it then. The next part I'm going to read. But it says, who would have a threesome with Dorothy and Alice? You know? You know, a referral to cultural consumption of narrative. But anyways, I'll keep on. As mystery takes the GPS on a ride, when your new feet touch a new land, know the candle has been lit. The joy of living is to be in the moment. I should probably say that the writing process I have, what I'm reading for the viewers, it's like the pure unedited version. You know, it's just what I wrote at the time, and usually how I write is like I've written so much, believe it or not, that I just hold the pen and I just like my eyes could be just semi-open and I could still write whatever and just appreciate, rhythms in my inner realms. What I mean by this is that it's an emotional inner event, and I just hold the pen and the poetry comes out. So I only know, like I read it at the end to know what it is. So anyways, that was 23. I think a focus point would be when your new feet touch a new land, know the candle has been lit. The joy of living is to be in the moment. I think this poem is a call towards, an appreciation of the incredible potential and power that simple being brings. It's like this. I would say the point of this poem would be you need to acknowledge your unknown inner being. I think that's what I would say to viewers. Anyways, I'll read the last poem, and this talk's going too long. Feels like that. Okay. Number 26, The Rice Field. It's the last poem of Endless Roads. A lady for 80 years bent down every day to pick up rice. At the end of her life, she had one message to her daughter. Before you eat, remember my breath in every grain of rice. This has a unique cultural context, this poem. And it's a suggestion, you can say, of like the effort we put into things lives on the next waves of consciousness that will find those efforts. I'm gonna go back to the topic and just say that the unknown presence of every personality is a suggestion that we don't know who we are, but we're all being somewhere. They say that a made-up mind, strength comes from a made-up mind. So the species has to make up its mind that doesn't want to just, live like a lesser species, or does it want to live like a greater species. What I mean is that when you look at animals in nature, they're just existing. It's as if they're so enlightened they don't care about their future. They're existing again, right? But for the human being, our counterattack to unknown circumstance is the projection of the greatest knowledge. The species has to decide what story it's going to, like a stepping stone, jump to. And that story, I find, should be themed by the advanced civilization. You could say it's what is better than world peace. Better than a utopia for clones is an advanced, it's as if the species is one tribe hunting and gathering, but now it has come to an inner level of reality. That means intelligence is like the next thing, it's the next tribal act. Our eyes are open now. Our voices roar now. To be fit for the advanced civilization, personality treated as a sort of vehicle. So it's as if a multidimensional piloting. You're piloting your outer realms towards the simplicity of nature in regards to an organism, But in regards to the inner realms, we're piloting to the cape. It's as if the mind is trying, like, let's say after 8 billion minds were united, for a grand vision, it's as if the next stage would be that every mind reaches as far out as it can in tackling these global concerns of where is everything. You see, it's as if we're actually all born as philosophers. We forget it when we accept language too soon. That means if there's a mystery beyond language an experiential mystery beyond language to the eyes that are present, it's as if words can no longer tame or shackle worlds. An unknown presence advancing a known world. That is the future's task. For me, when I communicate, it's more like I feel like a painter. Because language leads to image leads to the potential of that image, which is dynamism. Dynamism, once, let's say, multiplied by infinity, it's as if the eyes plus infinity equals 0 plus infinity, or 0 plus 1 plus 2 equals 0 plus infinity. Here, I'll claim it as an equation for the soul. Where's my pen? Okay. So we have 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus infinity equals 0 plus infinity. Now, the numbers have a numerical, they have a metaphoric significance. 0 suggests space, a component to how we're being human. 1 suggests the individualism, the free will, a component. 2 suggests how the world changes between chaos and order. And infinity suggests how chaos and order are endless expressions. So this is what is constituting consciousness. But this, at the same time, equals 0 plus infinity, right? So if you drew a line between this, it would be as if like 0 plus infinity is an existential truth. 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus infinity is an experiential truth, which means the mind is fathoming the void, the singular, the dualistic, and the infinite, or the reach towards the infinite. And when it comes to existence, it's either there's something or there isn't. Somebody once said that the only thing that doesn't change is change, or the only thing that is not in time is time. The species should not fear the void. The species should not fear the singular. The species should not fear the dual. That's our greatest challenge. And once our fear of duality is gone, once chaos and order are witnessed simultaneously by an additional dimension of a viewer, we will no longer fear the infinite and the immortal and the eternal. That fear will escape. Well, I shouldn't say escape. It will evaporate. Attention, and whoever's listening to me, your attention right now is the greatest clue towards the source of divinity. It's as if a person wants to, in an instant, discover the nature of reality. Let's say you're not patient and you're like, right now I want to be the ultimate. You'll notice that the source of the desire is a kept inner reaction to the outer. It's as if on one side of the coin, we require to be at peace with the void and have faith in the singular and manage duality, maintain duality efficiently. You know, think about it this way. You look at chaos and order. If the chaos and order apply to an inefficient world, then you're like, oh man, that's so unnecessary. But if the chaos and order, that means imagine all the chaotic and ordered fluctuations in reality, they all, in some sense, they happened in an advanced world. It's as if they happened in an efficient world. It's as if nobody could blame the chaos it's leading towards efficiency. Nobody could blame the order it's leading to efficiency. Ultimately, we are outgrowing duality. And this is what many people are not used to. It's as if, as a manner of speech, I would say, it's as if we are unknown multidimensional beings. Somebody who identifies as a personality has a spiritual experience, notices this unknown presence to their intelligence. When they notice that unknown presence to their intelligence, then they're like, okay, what do I do? How do I function as an individual after this inner recognition of my presence being the whole mind, right? And that comes from a recognition that you immediately, this is my, I would say, recommendation to all the pilots in this universal sector, all the advanced communicators in this universal sector. It's like the approach is in some sense through a decent truthfulness, arrive at a moment you can trust. And in viewing the probabilities of reality with an endless open mind, with an edgeless open mind, it's as if the great performance of every living being awaits. What else can I say? That's what the unknown leads. It's as if, a philosopher died, and before he died, he's like, wait a minute, universe, I didn't figure out who I was. It's like the philosopher's freaking out. He's like, oh man, I still don't know who am I, like who's gonna die right now, what's death, it's like the and then the philosopher realizes the fear of the unknown made us not consider it as a great source of ability. It's as if I ask myself, is civilization better if there is just one person that advances, or is it better if we could see what the at most advanced potential of 8 billion beings would look like? It's like it's as if we have our inner realms, and their inability to connect to one greater outer realm vision has in some sense made it a sort of jungle with walls. What Civilization 1.0 is. It's pretty much like, imagine the same animals that were in nature, now they've moved into like this walled room. this like into this kingdom into the concrete kingdom, right? Concrete jungle. What I'm trying to say is that the viciousness of man's mind is there. It's like we're a species that respected our ancestors so much that we respected even the caveman viciousness, and like that level of stuff is still happening in Civilization 1.0. To me, it's as if logging into this conscious waking state from an unknown contentment of my own presence. It's like when the unknown accepts the unknown, that's when you realize God's eyes were always open. But when I say God, I'm talking about poetically, like the soul of the soul of the soul, or the heart of the heart of the heart. If the species doesn't fear the universal, an advanced civilization will happen very quickly. If we have this ability to acknowledge the multidimensionalism of life, realizing inner realms are sculpting themselves in accordance to experiences, it's like with an incredible multidimensional tolerance, we first try to see what we have, like as if 8 billion creatures lost on an island, okay, on a galactic island. Instead of oceans, it's like space. And so on this galactic island, it's as if for survival, what do you see in movies? It's as if, okay, first see what you have, see what is accessible. And it's as if 8 billion creatures in civilization 1.0, in order to step towards the beyond, require to instantly see what is accessible, what are all the dimensions, and to realize that because there's going to be so many different kinds of human beings born on this planet, we have to accept multidimensionality. It is the liberation of identity in fixed narrative-based systems. People, they seek freedom. I think most human beings, that's what they seek. Life is reacted to, and then one is found in a conscious story of life. And I would say the most smartest position, intelligent position that the mind can stand in is to be watching the unknown. It's the edge of knowledge. It's as if you ask someone, hey, what is this? And then you keep asking, okay, what about that? What is that? What is that? And eventually it reaches, it's like, I don't know, man. It's like we don't know that far. So once we reach the edge of the language threshold, which is limited to the observable universe, shall the advanced walk again? The biggest clue is that on the level of being, there is no truth. In states of being, it's just being. The moment is so simple, it doesn't need another moment to define it. That's pretty much, I would say, how you get into samadhi. You honor your mind, and then trust it, and then as you trust the mind, you begin to realize its ability is familiarity of space with what's in it. It's as if we think that in regards to the monotheistic afterlife, you're gonna die on earth and wake up in heaven. But I think there could be another view that earth is in heaven. It's as if, where did God make earth? It's as if we are on earth. It's like, where is earth in? Right? And the more you wonder about such mysteries, you eventually reach a point where you see that you've come to an edge of a dualistic conception. And so that's where novelty pours in, inspiration comes. It's pretty much, we're not aiming high. We are aiming as far as we can reach, and you become fascinated by your progress in that way. That means, if endless effort was a slogan for the advanced civilization, it would be a worldly war. It's as if we were so advanced, we're like, it's like time can't touch us. It's like time's a pipsqueak, as a multidimensional presence. Plato has this thing where he says that time is the moving image of eternity. And a reason I think he said that is because he was tired of people asking him what time is it. He's like, buddy, we're just here, okay? Chill out. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Appreciate not only the known dimensions of your life, but also its unknown. And if the unknown dimensions of your life are animate, which some people translate as Jungian synchronicity, I would say instantly become honest and have honor in accordance to how simply you're being alive. You see, there is in Vedic thought something they say called Antarloka, which is the bridging dimension from where we are right now on this conscious waking state to, in some sense, another dimension beyond that, a celestial dimension beyond that in Vedic thought. So it's pretty much like there is a bridge. Our minds are a bridge between two dimensions, and it's as if when we are awake, we're on this side of the bridge, and when we sleep, we're on the other side. And in some sense, dreams can sometimes take place where you're standing, like the unknown interviewer is standing on the bridge. Do you see what I'm saying? People sought freedom, not realizing the world originated out of its own freedom. The world is freedom. Space is freedom. There's no other way of saying it. It's like we shouldn't call it outer space, we should call it outer freedom. The personality, I think something for the cultural dimension is that they say this for writing, they say everybody has a writer's voice. And take this in, that your brain and intelligence and whoever you are, whatever you are, whatever kind of creature you are, right? It's as if you are a certain antenna. That means if in the future, like, robots became conscious and they started talking to us, right? And, we'd be like, okay, it's like we have something in common. We have a range of reception of reality, and you have a range of reception of reality. You see? So to become aware of the range of your own perception means to have the courage to actually want to know what it is, even if it is unknown. I think this is true human living right here. Oh, man. Work with your presence by realizing you're being it in every moment, pretty much. It's like they ask someone, hey man, do you have a soul? And the person's like, I guess so. If it's like in the future, if they ask me, hey, Mr.Within, are you spiritual? I'll be like, I guess so. I'm realizing that's an incredible answer to everything. It's like, are you enlightened? I guess. That's the greatest answer, to some, you could say, fathom to that question. Oh, man. In the trenches of civilization 1.0, I give this talk. In the post-seeing the true potential of the species era, I'm giving this talk again. In reality, every person's identity is being preserved through what we call the free will. The free will, a great view to have on it, is that it's the ability of energy. It's how there's an opportunity to choose among probabilities. That's really what the mind is. You know, people think that learning is just reading books. It's such a ridiculous statement. Like, a person is actually the brain. Think of it this way: the brain is like this advanced engine, and there's parts of this engine we cannot see. We call this the subconscious. Now imagine that from the beginning of your life, let's say you're someone who wants to be an artist, who wants to be like someone who draws, okay? You for a second just take it in that from the beginning of your life, how many different lines, how many different color schemes, how many different shapes your eyes have seen from the beginning of your life. And you know, treating the mind as this engine with a subconscious component, what if in the subconscious component of your mind, in every day that you wake up, your brain is actually kind of like a bunch of books stacked on a bookshelf, is keeping simulations of yourself in the moment, do you know? There's a value to human life that is unknown, and we should guard it till then, like, you know, from the future that thinks it can put it into a box, or from any ideological systems that's like, yeah, we looked at words on a piece of paper and this is what everything should be. It's as if, you know, sometimes I think about the religious attitude where it's as if, do you not see everything is the creation of God? Everything. Even the archetype of chaos and order is a creation of God. So if everything is a creation of God, then everything is divine. Do you see? But the religious mind limits itself to the cultural paradigm. It's as if somebody sent a text message, and it's as if rather than people reading what the text message actually says, they're just staring at the words and they're like, I'm going to worship this text message till the end of time. You see, the issue is not that I'm trying to culturally free the burdened personalities in the outer realms. In the inner realms, your faith is yours alone. In the outer realms, that is where a collective ecosystem, it's like there's a collective role. Every person should feel as if they are an ambassador of the human species, right? Imagine, you know, there was a person who people disliked, and an extraterrestrial, you know, in a very diplomatic way, you know, the spaceship arrived on Earth, and, you know, let's say the spaceship opened, and these very, let's say, somehow well-dressed extraterrestrials, right? They arrived and they're like, we choose this random person on the street to be your ambassador. At that point, the whole species is like, holy shit, we should have cared for all of us. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like advancement means that in your inner realms, dear listener, if you identify with this notion of advanced communicator I'm talking about, that means replace spirituality with advanced communicator, with advanced communication. You know, when I think about the most advanced activity that human beings together can do, aside from the generalization of an advanced civilization, it is to discover all the different inner realms that are out there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Every human being that doesn't write an honest book, okay, on this planet, or doesn't share something that happened in their inner realm, it's as if the future generations missed out on a hidden world that was going on. You see, we have to raise the value of the human being, you know, from this false notion that I am atoms rented into a chemical hallucination for some time. It's as if it's like, are neurons trying to build an advanced civilization? Or is there something here that has a might of its own, that has a force? You see, that's the true power of the soul. It is non-ideological, instantaneous knowing, and in that instantaneous knowing, it's as if there is one force of being, right? Usually in situations where it gets too complex or overwhelming for me, it's as if sometimes I feel my mind growls. I become simpler than the moment, and I become a viewer. You know, it's as if there was somebody in the room, and what was happening in the room was too intense, and what happened to the attention of the person? I'm talking about in regards to physical existential suffering. We are like creatures, living this program of biological temporary life, right? And it's as if suddenly from the overwhelmment of the incidences of intensity of suffering, it's as if you learn to hold intensity rather than to react to intensity. And in that ability, it's something you cultivate, where it's as if every day you wake up, it's as if a king is visiting you, but this king is your presence. It's your mind. You know, in the inner realms, there's like 8 billion advanced, 8 billion, it's like countless advanced civilizations fathomable, but in the outer realms, that is where just like Michelangelo said, I saw an angel in the stone and I set it free. It's as if Mr. Within is saying, I saw an advanced civilization on a rock spinning in the middle of nowhere, a rock in the middle of nowhere. And in some sense, now we all must realize it is literally the great, like it's the only result. It's the indirect vision we have been, the species is subconsciously be living for. It's as if, why do human beings care about their children? Why do they care about their grandchildren? Now, why end there? Care about your great grandchildren, and eventually you'll realize that the greatest contribution of of conscious minds in the present, as in the human format, is to, in some sense, try to find novelties. Embrace. Try to find novelty. That means it's as if somebody was like, should I seek happiness? I'm like, sure, but seek novelty. Do not seek a happiness that has been found yet, for the world is too big. Right? This is why it's like truth can be pointed to through words, but never experientially given. Why? Because your eyes are the commander. It's as if your soul is the commander, is the general, and it instructs the commanding officer in the mind. And then your mind navigates as the body. You see, the idea is that there's nothing, think of it this way, the best version of something is an advanced version that has maintained also its knowledge of simplicity. You see, it is now the time for the archaic revival of the castles in the sky. Intelligence has the pursuit of meaning. There's a rush that some people get. Do you know? Like, I don't know how to say it. It's like a giant standing in front of you. You'd be like, okay, I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now. That's how it feels to me when I speak about the advanced civilization. It is like when souls remember they are souls. It's as if then the permission for the most advanced body and mind movement arises. That means when there is contentment with the unknown, the reaction to a change doesn't become suffering anymore. And through that state of freedom, you will be fascinated that your mind and intelligence reveals itself to you. It shows, like, your intelligence knows how to intelligently remind you that you are already being it. Do you know? It's like there is something here, and it deserves the most advanced. It's as if, what's the most advanced gift we can give to the future generations? It's like, what's this box with the, a Civ 2.0 sticker on it? It's like when the future generations open that box, you know what it is? Honestly, think of it this way. Our egos are trying to show the future how far we went, just to inspire them to go further. That means the greatest potential of the present becomes the greatest further potential of the future generations. Find the spirit of the most advanced, and you'll realize it's the instantaneous presence of your own being. And I use the term unknown just to say that don't freak out whoever you are if you notice that beyond a subjective landscape, you are present. You know, Eckhart Tolle, Muji, these guys say here and now, and a bunch of New Age, people in the New Age community, they're like, oh yeah, totally. Not realizing to come to the here and now is for the universal, it's like a universal revelation. It's as if man was like, God, answer me, and God was like, I'll let the universe talk. I'll let the universe relay the message. And so every moment is as if you are attending an existential a grand happening. We have opened our eyes through eternity's concentration. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Much blessings and honest. And whoever you are, I should start saying this more. What is your view on an unknown presence, beyond the personality? Or to every personality? Thanks for listening, guys.